This is Governor Bobber. Good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
Hey, it is Friday, January 17th. Wow, can you believe how fast we're gotten through January? It's like already January 17th, and granted, January 20th can't come fast enough, and it is very cold. I am getting sick of this cold, as in the weather, not any virus or anything like that. It is cold, cold, cold. And today wasn't so bad, but it is cold, cold, cold now because I'm a little bit. Hey, Google, what's the temperature right now? 35 degrees right now is what it is. So it is cold.
It'll be
but
cold.
Not as cold as it's gonna get. And
my complaint is that I was gone for like a week, and I came back, and the snow that I wasn't able to get to remove when I left was still there. And I'm like, I was counting on a melt off. I was like,
yeah,
this is. I was very disappointed. So yeah, I know it was cold here because of that. Because normally the snow would have.
It's probably all ice now.
Yeah, I mean it turns to ice and everything like that, and so makes it harder to remove. But with a sunny day like today and temperatures above freezing, you can, if you attack it, then you can clear some of that up and all that. Of course, I was in Indiana. I get to Indiana, and my daughter, their family had just gone through a snowstorm and an ice storm, closed schools for a week, and then while I was there, it snowed some more, and I'm like, why am I here except for the grandchildren? By
the way, MCPS was closed for 4 days. They used 4 of their 5 snow days, or do they only have 4 snow days now? But couldn't, yeah. So yeah, they were closed. So they can't take any more snow days, evidently. But it's a big story.
Well, they can tack it on to the end of the year, which is a totally useless exercise. Right.
Yes. Well, also teachers don't like that either. They'd rather shrink spring break to 2 days or something of that is what they'd rather do.
Well, parents will get upset about that.
Yeah. Teachers don't care what parents think in Montgomery County. You know that.
Yeah, they may not care there, but well, yeah. I was saying earlier before the show, the last time I remember the indoor swearing in, and maybe the only other time in my life, would have been Reagan's.
That was I think George Washington, our founders, had something going when they said they did I believe George Washington was sworn in March.
I think so. They used to do it. They used to do it up until Roosevelt in March, right?
I mean, they had something. They had the right idea. Couldn't you imagine the cherry blossoms in bloom, and we swearing in the president? I mean, what we could do is we could informally on the 20th.
Yeah, the problem there is, yeah, well, we'd have a few more months of Joe Biden. So.
No,
exactly.
No.
At this point in time, suffering through another 2 months of the previous.
No. This is what I'm saying. What we do is on January 20th, we do a swearing in, like they do anyways, do a closed door swearing in of the president. The new president takes over, but we don't do the big fancy parades and the balls until March 20th.
Well,
you could do that, though. I think people get very hyped up about the whole. They kind of want to have the whole thing. I mean, look at the the New York Stock Exchange is kind of an interesting thing too, because
Mhm.
you see all those companies when they ring the bell of the
Yeah.
New York Stock Exchange.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily mean that their stock is being listed that day. There's apparently not a real set limit, so that you can go ahead and launch an IPO or whatever, uh,
Mhm.
but not actually have a presentation, a ringing the bell ceremony for months and months and months. So I mean, there is that, but I think the inauguration, I think you kind of want to have everything done at once. Though we do complications for this one are, as JD Vance kind of joked, is that there's going to be a football game that night involving Ohio State. So I think he wants to kind of keep his eye on that, but he's got some inaugural things to get to too. So
Well, he might even skip it for the game.
yeah, I mean, it's like I just look. What is the Ohio delegation going to do now?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny.
After television with the game playing.
Midwest, there is a Heartland Ball, which is on Saturday, not on Monday. So they don't have to. But by the way, they have. There's actually the president.
You can't do them all in one night. You do have to
Yeah.
spread them over several
Tomorrow
nights.
night they've got a lot of balls. Everyone from Arizona to the Midwest states got together to do their ball. It used to just be Illinois, but now it's Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and maybe Minnesota and Ohio all together are doing the Heartland Ball.
Yeah, I've been to a few of those in the past. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It doesn't.
Well,
there's not a lot of lure to me for that.
Well, my sympathy for Joe Biden has sunk in these days, last several weeks, because what he's doing is just, I think, amazingly outrageous in terms of going out with doing all this last minute stuff. And then the Cuba case, where I guess he took Cuba off the list of pariah states. And then what else? There's something else he did today. I forgot, but it's just something.
Well, he did his interview with Lawrence O'Donnell yesterday, which is very, two grumpy old guys.
Didn't he pardon a bunch of low-level drug offenses or something?
Yes, that must have been it. Maybe that's it. Yeah. Yeah, he's just
has he pardoned the former mayor of Baltimore City? Yeah,
Mosby. What was her name?
Yeah, Mosby. Yeah.
I don't think he did, but he's horrible. I mean, just god awful, and that's why I think the one bit of justice here is that he's going to have to sit there while Trump is sworn in, and I hope in Trump's speech he just makes all kinds of veiled attacks at him. I think that would be great.
Although
I'll give him credit for showing up, because Trump did not go to Biden's, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
And we also had, also I understand Barack Obama and Bill Clinton are going to be there.
Oh, really?
Michelle is not. Michelle,
she's in Hawaii. Where it's probably a nice 82 degrees.
I think it's better that she doesn't come, but I am surprised though that Clinton's coming. But will Hillary? I can't imagine Hillary coming.
Oh, she'll be there. She'll be there.
Really? That is a surprise.
She has to be Tammy Wynette. She's got to stand by her man. That's a deep cut.
Is W coming? Is W coming?
Yeah. W's going to be there. So
really? Well, I'm surprised.
Yeah, there's a report that they'll be at the inauguration, but they will not necessarily. May not be at the inaugural lunch.
That's right. That's right.
They will skip that part. So.
It's possible the food's not that good, and that's why they're not going. Think of it. It's like the same kind of food you get at a government cafeteria.
Yeah.
Well, it's a less public thing. I mean,
yeah.
I think it shows. It's good to show yourself for the inaugural, even if you don't really like the president. He is the president. He was duly elected.
Harry Truman did not invite Ike and Mamie. I believe it was Ike and Mamie were not invited to the traditional tea the morning of the inauguration at the White House.
They didn't like each other. Eisenhower and and Truman didn't like each other.
Yeah, because Truman was a commie. That's why, as General MacArthur said.
Yeah. No, they didn't like each other, but I think the most, the swearing in is always historic. It really is. I think, though, the most historic of all the American swearing ins are two of them. One sort of infamous, that's LBJ being sworn in on the plane after in Dallas. And the second one was Coolidge being sworn in a farm in Vermont. His father, who was a judge, swore him in. But that's because of the assassination of, I guess it was McKinley.
No, McKinley, that was after Teddy Roosevelt came in after McKinley.
So what happened with Coolidge? I'm now drawing a blank, but
he was elected. He was elected president, Calvin Coolidge.
Yeah, he was, but maybe I guess they, for whatever reason, they swore him in. He wasn't sworn in Washington.
He was too cold in Washington.
I don't know
back then.
Interesting.
Might be worth looking.
Oh,
Susan,
no, it was because of Harding. Harding had died, and they swore in Coolidge. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There's rumored that William Harding was murdered. And if we were MSNBC, I could say he was murdered by the Democrats because they didn't like President Harding.
Harding was in San Francisco. One of the famous hotels, had a heart attack, and they know the suite. You can still stay in the suite at one of those hotels. With the hotel, I forget what it was in San Francisco.
Hotel California.
No, you never leave. No, it wasn't that in the Imperial or something. I don't know.
The Imperial was RFK, I think.
No, that was the Ambassador Hotel.
Ambassador.
RFK was killed the Ambassador.
It's a little funny that it is. You have the Ambassador and you have the hotel.
Names.
But it is a historical thing. This long nightmare is over.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of lefties, are posting a lot of crazy, nonsensical stuff. Here's a couple of my favorite. What some of the lefties are saying. Oh my God, Mark Hamill was saying something stupid too. This is new.
No, he always is.
There was.
I didn't watch Larry O'Donnell's. I didn't watch the interview. Was it really bad?
Yes. This is what the left is saying. Dark times are coming as of this Monday. Rules for 2020. Visit who visits you. Call who calls you. Support who supports you. Ignore who ignores you. Okay, good. So will you please ignore us if we ignore you, lefties? And here's another one. So next Monday, you'll get rid of labor force to rebuild burnt California. Your jobs are back. How about them egg prices? It's like stupid stuff like that. Or let's see, this one doesn't even really make sense, but it's I know there's good in you. Hashtag Darth Vader. Hashtag Luke Skywalker. Hashtag Return. So is Obi-Wan, is Joe Biden or Kamala going to be the Return of the Jedi? Please. Is that what they're insinuating? It's all this whole stuff. See, Star Trek doesn't get this political, frankly. That's why Star Trek's better than Star Wars.
Man.
Star Wars is all fake. It's not even realistic.
Yeah, if we're thinking about, say, Biden's farewell speech, that was just kind of a horrible way to go out. I mean, there just aren't a lot of highlights to Biden's 4 years in office, and I think it's an embarrassment the way they crafted that speech for him. I mean, talking about the tech industrial complex and the oligarchs, and like you said, kind of the democracy is in danger and things like this. A lot of the stuff was fine when the tech people supported the Democrats before they abandoned them for Trump.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was fine when the
oligarchs supported
the Democrats. That was fine. But as soon as they switched allegiances, now it's all of a sudden you better watch out for these these oligarchs. You better watch out for the tech people. But part of it, I mean, don't you think part of the reason? I mean, the tech, Silicon Valley, a lot of them switch their allegiance from the Democrats to the Republicans in this case was just that 4 years of Biden showed that the Democrats were not their friends. The Democrats basically tried to put them out of business.
Yeah,
that they did. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, the other thing is about the billionaires and stuff he likes to talk about. I think most of them were backing Kamala, and remember, she outspent Trump. So in terms of money and politics, and corrupting democracy, she ended up spending over $1 billion and still lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
and here's the.
And I would also say that along those lines that, it's kind of rich for a guy who came in, undid Trump's border policies. We got overwhelmed. Then he says there's nothing you can do about it. But now he believes that the country's run by oligarchs. And then in the case of student loan debt, Supreme Court told him he couldn't do it. He does it anyway. And now he's saying the country's run by oligarchs. Look out for the oligarchs. It seems to me all the damage was caused by him, not some mob in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. Joe Biden, this is what he's going to be known for. Super high inflation, decline on the world stage. I mean, look at this. I mean, he oversaw the fall of Afghanistan. That made the fall of Saigon look like a Sunday picnic.
And he was involved in both. Because remember, as a congressman, he's voted to cut off the funding. They cut the funding off. We had to scab.
And he has been. I mean, he's gonna go down. I remember a couple of weeks ago we were saying a few nice things about Jimmy Carter, but I don't think I could find anything nice to say about Joe Biden if he were to ever pass away, And because I mean, he was just a horrible, horrible president. He botched everything. President Trump gave him the cure for COVID, gave him the vaccine, right?
Yeah.
Botches all that. He kept the mask mandates and all this other stuff, COVID era mandates still in place. The return to office. I mean, honest to God, let's all go back to the office 5 days a week. I'll compromise. 4 days a week, 3 days a week is fine too. But we need to be in the office at least 3, at the very least 2 of the 5 days out of the week. 3 is preferable, but I mean, I hate traffic, so I think if Mondays and Fridays were telework days for civil service, it wouldn't be a bad thing because it'd be easier to get around town, and they're not allowed to get into cars and go anywhere else either. Is what I want them to do. Just stay home, But I mean, look at interest rates, how high they are. Look at inflation. The price of eggs, as our lefty friends still like to say, how about those price of eggs? Well, something. Joe Biden screwed things up in less than 90 days. I'm sure we can make a big dent in a recovery in less than 90 also. Because if you go out there, it's just more. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's more. Things are looking brighter. It's more optimistic.
I think so, but it won't be easy. But I think once he starts, I mean, he's got 100 executive orders I've heard ready to go. So once you start that, I think things will start to, you'll start to see some improvement. Just right there, just getting rid of Biden is a positive, no matter what else you do.
Hey, is somebody going to? By the way, is anybody going to search Joe Biden on his way up? Make sure he's not taking top secret documents with him to put in his Corvette.
Yeah, maybe.
I
wish him a long life and all, but I don't think he'll ever be able to restore his image like a Carter because he's not going to have the time. I think he's going out unpopular. I think he'll remain unpopular throughout history because I think there's really nothing there to point to. I understand people will try to spin it as best they can. I just don't think you can. You got nothing there. I mean, what are you gonna highlight?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: the other flip side of all of this is we are, we are actually about to see the sun rise on America. We were in the darkness for the last 4 years. Everything that should have been up was down. Everything that was down that should be down was up for the last 4 years. But I know we have. I mean, I love. By the way, Don, let me ask you a question. Who controls the state assemblies and the state senate in California? Which party? Is it the Republicans or the Democrats?
It surely is not the Republicans.
Who and how long have they had the governor's mansion? I don't even count Schwarzenegger as a Republican. They've been Democrats since Pete Wilson left, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, something along those lines. I mean, it went south pretty quickly for the California Republican Party. It's not been good.
Yeah,
Once
it
a
was-
great party, a powerhouse in the country.
You know, I mean, back in the Dwight, I mean, back in the days when you and I attended the conventions,
Yeah.
you know, the party still had a chance. They were, you know, they could elect people throughout the
They
state.
had an attorney general back then, Joe Lundgren.
Dan Lundgren.
Dan Lundgren.
Not
Joe
Dolph Lundgren.
Lundgren's actually my friend's dad.
So, you know, but yeah, you know, they had some good people, but you know, now it's hard to get a lot of these candidates there. It's to make them viable on the state race. Now, it'll be interesting, you know, with Newsom, you know, leaving office eventually here with his twin terms. Is like, you know, can the Republicans mount, you know, find a good candidate to run in the next cycle, because Newsom has done terrible damage to the state of California, and I think that there's an opening there. I mean, I think there
Tom
is
McClintock. Tom McClintock.
That would be great. I'd love to see Tom McClintock do something like that.
Unfortunately, he probably could have won last time, but Sean Hannity and all those talking heads on the radio decided to get back that super uber conservative, not Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember that year. Yes, you're right. They pushed Schwarzenegger because he's a celebrity or a star. That wasn't a conservative.
Hey, look, they had a lot of great people. You had Tom McClintock was running. Bordenaro was a great candidate. Someone Bordenaro. You
Peter
also had
Uberoth.
Fires. Yeah,
Peter Uberoth was running.
Yeah. James Fire. Yeah, Firestone was another one. Then you also had Bill Simon, the one who just lost earlier. I mean, you had 5 great conservatives running. But who does Sean Hannity and a lot of the talk? And I like Sean Hannity. Let me just say that. But I mean, who they all backed? They backed Arnold Schwarzenegger. They bought into his lies of him being a Reagan-esque style governor, and he was more like
yeah, the Republican, that was one of the biggest mistakes Republicans made, was in the sense of, I mean, it was one thing to recall Gray Davis, but then to have Schwarzenegger take his place, that didn't do the Republicans any favors at all.
Yeah. Remember, it was under Schwarzenegger that they passed that new jungle primary stuff, where now no Republican's ever going to make it. It's always going to be Democrat A versus Democrat B.
That's what has happened in most cases. I mean, the Republicans shot themselves in the foot because of that. I mean, that's the jungle primary, does not work favorably at all for the Republicans in California.
I mean, we're lucky that at least for the Senate choice, you had a Republican option this time around. You had Steve Garvey.
I like Garvey.
I think Garvey should have gotten into politics 10 years ago, not now. I think he was a little too old. I think that's when he lost. People made an issue of his age. But the fires, that everyone from the mayor of LA to the liberal fire chief there, they all seem to want to blame the Republicans somehow for this Donald Trump.
I don't think that'll work. What do you think? You think that'll work?
I don't know. It works with the MSNBC crowd. If you watch MSNBC, they're blaming Trump for the fire.
Well, I thought he wanted to bring down the water to help get Southern California some water to fight it.
But California, I mean, this has been long-term mismanagement on the forest and everything like this, in terms of how they prepared for any of these things. They basically turned that state into a tinderbox because of their forest and land management programs.
They care more about the kangaroo rat than they do about
people. Yeah, about people. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, in this fire, you know, I've taken issue with some of the things that have happened in the past, some of the mudslides and some of the fires where, people have built in areas that were remote, and maybe potentially prone to some of these things. It's like you took on a high risk by going into those areas. But a lot of the homes that were damaged this time were much more central and, had not had any incidences for decades. And the X factor too on this was the Santa Ana winds. I've experienced Santa Ana winds on a trip out to California. I did not understand that before I actually was in California, but I'm now like, I would avoid the Santa Ana winds and just say those are some of the strongest winds you will ever face. Short of getting into a kind of a tornado situation or anything like that.
Or a derecho, like we've had it once many years ago here. Or as I prefer the name land hurricane, but they like to use derecho personally, but I just think land hurricane or lightning wind is the other one they were calling it before they started calling it. They all adopted derecho. And I think lightning wind.
Derecho, yeah. But I mean, I was in a small rental car, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, whatever it was, driving to, I just said, oh, I'm going to take a side trip because I was out there for one of these Republican conventions or something or other. And I was going to go drove over to Simi Valley to the Reagan Library. Yeah, I think it was like, October, November. And that wind, I thought the car was going to get blown. My car was going to get blown off the highway. I didn't understand what the heck was going on. I couldn't understand.
Rodan was flying over,
holding on to for dear life, like I never have before and never have since. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but here, and they've had the Santa Ana winds. It's kind of like when people, they don't seem to, it's like, I feel it's kind of like this, right? When I'm driving on the Beltway, there's places where the sun hits you, right? On the Beltway. And everyone hits the brakes because they act like they've never seen the sun before. And they don't know how to pull the visor down to block the sun or put sunglasses on. And they all hit the brakes, causes a traffic jam. And the sun's been coming around for millions and millions and millions of years. And humanity's been around for 2,000 plus years, and the sun still has been coming up at the exact same place, same time. Come on, get used to it. You do this commute every single day. I can understand maybe it's the first day you start driving, you realize, oh my God, the sun, right? And it's kind of like the same way with these Santa Ana winds, they happen. Why are you not better prepared for the, like, then again, they could say the same thing about Washington, D.C. when it snows, how this past snow, it took them a long time to clear the roads, around here. There are some roads that some people still complain that are not being, that have not been cleaned. Just like there's people that over in Eastern Baltimore that when we had Hurricane Isabel, they were, flooded out and so on. And as somebody said, we're still recovering from Hurricane Agnes. But, these things are happening that, like folks in Florida, they prepare for hurricanes. They have ways to get the evacuation routes. And hurricanes are kind of like the Santa Ana winds. They happen every year. And I just don't understand why is it that the state of California does not have a preparation plan. I mean, they've got, I'm willing to bet they probably have a preparation plan if they run out of tofu, in California, but not for winds and fires that's comes as well. And I think they need to, they need to ban, to get rid of the law. There's a law in California on the books. You can't water your front lawn. You can't water your lawn at all. That's why if you see a lot of those, a lot of homes in Southern California that have like rocks instead of grass in front. And dried up grass goes up pretty fast. So they need to do better preparation. And it falls on the party in power, and the party in power is too busy constructing social engineering experiments with women in men's bathrooms and men in women's bathrooms, where they can't figure out if a girl is a girl or a boy is a boy. They can't figure that out, but that's what they were spending time with. They got no time to worry about the Santa Ana winds and the possibility of fires. I mean, honestly, if I were a California voter, I'd be really irritated with my elected officials because my house is burnt to the ground. My insurance rates are going through the roof now. And what is California's top priority? I believe they just had a special session. Was it last week or did they cancel it about Trump proofing the state of California?
Yeah, have they had
priorities?
I don't know. Have they had that yet? It sounded like they haven't, and maybe they could still cancel it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I know that, but see, that was their priority. My point is,
I know
Trump proofing California is a bigger priority for them, but that's I'm off my soapbox on California.
No, but the insurance problem is going to be a huge problem because they've had issues for years with insurers pulling out of the market because of the previous wildfires and other disasters. And so the main insurance company now, the largest, is the state, right? Normally
like Florida.
Normally that's the insurer of last resort. Now it's basically insurer of first resort. But in order to keep their rates even halfway reasonable, they keep very low cash on hand, and they have some reinsurance, but this damage is so widespread it will probably basically bankrupt that system. But part of the law that's they have in there is just that if they run out of money, then the other insurers can then will have to kick in money, but then they can pass that money along as assessments to other homeowners whose homes weren't damaged and everything like that. So you're already paying high insurance rates in California for your home, and then all of a sudden you're going to get socked with maybe another $1,000 or more in assessments to help cover the shortfall from the state fund. Florida fixed theirs. Florida had a problem with their state fund, and Ron DeSantis basically, they got their act together, and they basically stopped, all the shenanigans by the people who were basically filing, useless lawsuits and contractors inflating prices, to the point that the state fund is doing well, and even insurance companies are actually re-entering the market in Florida. That is not the case in California, right? That California, they keep losing insurers, but Florida fixed their insurance system to prevent a lawsuit abuse. And so they are now actually in good shape. I mean, that's nobody ever talks about insurance companies re-entering a market, because usually the big headline is that these disasters due to climate change are chasing insurers out. But Florida is a different story. Thank you, Governor DeSantis.
Yeah, and it goes back to leadership. I mean, Ron DeSantis is a leader. Gavin Newsom is a follower, frankly. He hasn't taken the lead. He's more concerned about Trump-proofing California, making it safe for illegal aliens, making, securing trans rights, and every kooky lefty idea there is, opposed to protecting homeowners, hardworking Californians,
Well, I think they'll pay a price. People are going to continue to leave California, and this will probably speed up the pace. I mean, it could be the point of the next census. They could be looking at 4 to 5 congressional seats losing. And I think Karen Bass is done. And I don't know did you guys see that? And I think he was with the BBC or the Australian news channel. He corners Mayor Bass and he says, "What do you have to say to the people of California? Do you express any regret?" She froze. Did you see that? It went viral, the video. And she just froze literally as he was asking her questions. Can you imagine that in a campaign commercial? She's done. And I would also say one other thing about Karen Bass. Joe Biden was considering making her vice president. Now, is that stunning or what? Now, that was beforehand, but because he decided he had to have a black woman to be VP. Qualifications doesn't really matter. They're over 35, born in America. That's all they needed. But I'm hearing that she was even under consideration. So, oh my God.
Well, that also speaks to overall, just the how Joe Biden, in essence, committed political suicide by just by being so inclusive, right? The whole everything from picking a VP to his cabinet members, it was a very DEI centric, kind of a thing, and that's one of the reasons that this was so disastrous. Everywhere you looked, you had people who were in position because of the color of their skin or their sexuality, and not their competence. And so we had 4 years of horrendous incompetence pretty much across the board. And he selects a Kamala Harris. Look, Kamala Harris, Karen Bass,
Pete Buttigieg.
That's an interesting thing, because can you imagine Joe Biden, being forced out and then Karen Bass having to be their nominee? Do you think the Democrats would have done the same thing with Karen Bass as they did with Kamala, in terms of anointing? I think she would have been a much harder candidate to get to rally around for the Democrats. Like, I think the Democrats would have found a way to say, no, we need to have some kind of procedure, at the convention where we nominate somebody and we vote, we decide that way, rather than just basically say it's a slam dunk. She's the VP. She can do it. She's going to raise all this money and she can beat Donald Trump. Well, see how good that was.
It's funny internally. They kind of knew that there's leaks coming out here and there that I'm hearing that a lot of the establishment, after the convention, they kind of saw the writing on the wall that Kamala's not going to get it done for them. They kept pushing the narrative, but they kind of had a good idea that, hey, that's not possible. Also, we've got a bunch of stuff, and this all goes back to the incompetence of Joe Biden, basically, whether it be California, because we have supporters, Biden has followers. We will criticize our own. When they do something wrong, we will attack them. These guys, they fall on their sword, doesn't matter how bad. I mean, Joe Biden could have appointed Lyndon LaRouche in charge of civil rights at the DOJ, and everybody would be all happy with that.
Yeah, only you will bring up Lyndon LaRouche, for heaven's sakes.
He's still with us. Is he still alive?
No, he's passed on.
Because I think he had a compound in Leesburg, I think.
Yeah, he used to. They used to always hand out his papers, that stuff. Like at Maryland, at the Student Union, always used to handing out his propaganda. Yeah. And then when he was in jail, he was like a political prisoner.
Yeah, the LaRouches were everywhere.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, they were.
Now they're all gone. I wonder if they've all just became Democrats.
I never understood what was their, not to get off on a sidetrack here, I never understood what was their issue, what motivated them, what got them out. Usually with groups I can kind of tell. With the LaRouches, it just seemed like a cult of personality, right? I mean, what was the ideology?
I know Lyndon LaRouche had a half-hour commercial back in the 90s that I saw where he was all about high-speed rail. He wanted to he basically wanted to build three networks of high-speed rail, one for the Midwest, one for the East, and one for the West, and connect them. That was his big thing. He wanted to get rid of the Federal Highway Administration and let the highways collapse and crumble, and he was weird.
Yeah, he was weird. Yeah, he was weird.
Say the least.
And so were his supporters too. They were.
Yeah. Well, he was a communist also, amongst other things,
Yeah.
But by the way, we will never hear KGP ever again. She's had her final press conference.
Yeah, she was horrible. The worst press secretaries ever. And here's the other thing about Biden. He didn't fire anybody. This is the amazing thing about him. I mean, Jimmy Carter fired a good amount of people, but despite all the failures of the Biden administration, nobody got fired. Take Afghanistan, one of the biggest foreign policy disasters of our history. Nobody got fired.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody got fired.
Yeah, that train derailment in East Palestine.
That's right.
Pete Buttigieg still had a job, and Pete Buttigieg You know what? Did you know one of this? I just found out about this recently. Did you know one of the focuses was about racist highways and roads that are racist? Like one, I don't know if you ever been on the BW Parkway in Maryland or even the GW Parkway. You notice there's some underpass where buses can't go under. Every now and then, a bus will try and get stuck under there and cause a big traffic back up on the GW Parkway. Evidently, that's a racist. That's racist. Those types of interchanges. Also, running interchanges through black neighborhoods just makes the roads racist. I mean, honest to God, you're putting a road in. Roads do not have.
Yeah.
Like, and that was one of his focuses as a transportation secretary. Thank God he was off for 2 years for maternity leave.
That's right.
He could have done some real damage, But
and
but when the Key Bridge went down, he was nowhere to be seen either, frankly.
Okay. Well, and the thing about Biden, like I said, when you don't fire people, this causes them to have less faith in government because they feel, well, nobody gets fired, and it doesn't matter what you do. And so that undermines the faith people have in the federal government.
Very true. Very true.
Start firing people. And along those lines, one other thing that struck me about Biden, and see what you guys think. All the American presidents in my lifetime, I can always name some of the people outside of Washington that they talked to, they listened to, influenced them. In the case of Trump, for example, Elon Musk, he listens to Elon Musk. Timothy Leary, that guy, the Canadian businessman he listens to. Jamie Dimon he's been talking to. In the case of Biden, I never knew, other than the people that Obama picked for the administration, who is Biden talking to outside the Beltway? I don't know, other than, I guess, Hunter and Jill, and that's it.
And the Chinese, he was talking about the Chinese communists also. Let's be real. He was talking to the Chinese.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, maybe so. But anyway, that's important when you kind of try to figure out what he's learning. How is he being influenced? What does he know about America? I don't think Joe Biden really ever did. I think he was isolated and controlled, and he didn't have the intellectual sort of energy to look into anything else, really. That's just my impression.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good assessment because I think in essence, really, from the time Biden got in office, I mean, he basically turned over policy to the far left. He let the AOC, Bernie Sanders people, those other people that part of the coalition that helped get him elected. He gave them wide latitude on how to govern, the United States in terms of here are the policies we want, and he championed those policies. This would not be, moderate Joe. This was left-wing Joe in essence, with a lot of these types of policies. So it's, he had political payback. People he had to pay back on this, and that was disastrous. You've got to be your own man when you're the president of the United States. You've got to be able to have an idea and a firm idea of what you want to do, and the policy. Now, some things may not be realistic. You do have to look at, Congress. Do you have enough of a majority in Congress to get your legislation passed? Can you get it through the Senate so it can hit your desk? Are these things, even reasonable? Trump wants to he wants to eliminate the Department of Education, and we saw that under Reagan as well. And the Department of Education is not very big, but once you have these cabinet level agencies in place, it's really virtually impossible to get rid of them.
It's kind of like an entitlement program, Don. It's like, name an entitlement program that we've gotten rid of. I mean, we've basically had a generation now grow up with Obamacare. Good luck trying to repeal Obamacare. I mean, we can't get rid of Social Security or Medicare, frankly, which we desperately need to reform or fix or get rid of.
I think there was even talk about, the Americans with Disabilities Act, pulling that back a little bit. But once it becomes law, that's it. I mean, I felt, once Obamacare passed, I thought, you can talk all you want. You can say you want to get rid of Obamacare. I'm sorry. You now put an entitlement program on the books. Once it's there, it's not going away, because people are going to glom onto that thing, and they're going to say, no, we'd like that. The best the Republicans could do, is really strip away at pieces of it, right?
Yeah.
And make it less effective, in terms of take away some of the worst parts of it. But when you had pieces, had things in there about, you can cover your child until they're age 26 on your health insurance policy, that type of thing. Once people had that opportunity, they weren't going to give that up. Once they plied the states, with Medicaid money. Okay, most some red states went for that, but it was mostly blue states went for that. But they were cutting back on how much the government would eventually cut back on how much money they would supply for Medicaid. And when they did that, all of a sudden the states that expanded Medicaid are like, oh, we've got a problem, with Medicaid. We don't have enough money to fill that at all.
And
So
it's like, remember Paul Ryan and the Republican Congress was trying to reform Social Security for the longest time, and they were scorned for trying to fix Social Security. And I mean, that's one of those things. It's like, we're going to be, Social Security is going to be bankrupt, frankly, frankly, it's a miracle that it's still around today, but, then you have liberals who goes, well, that's why we need to have all the illegals come in, because they're going to, well, they don't pay Social Security, Mr. Illegal Alien Defender.
Yeah.
They're paying sales tax that stays local, that goes nowhere.
Yes. Yeah.
Frankly, but we've got, and other, like what do you call it? This is gonna be this guy Biden's. What do you call wage growth? I think Don, you had that in your list of talking about what the 19% inflation.
Well, 21% inflation, 19% wage growth versus Trump 15.4% wage growth and 7.9% inflation. So in wage growth, I mean, you could say on the one hand, wage growth under Biden was strong, but it trailed inflation. And inflation actually was one of the reasons that wage growth was strong, because they had, employers had to pay more because inflation was strapping the employees. So it was a vicious cycle there. So, employees overall lost ground under Biden, and, we've talked about inflation many times on this program. The inflation that we've had for the past 4 years, we're not going to go into a deflationary period. The prices we have, will create a new baseline going forward. So we're not going to see, 2019, 2020 prices. We now have a new baseline to go to and say, okay, this is it. Get used to paying this amount of money for gas.
I've had to get used to paying $5 for a brick of Breyer's ice cream. Even the house brand, like the Giant House brand ice cream, is still like not $1.99. It's still, maybe you get lucky, it's on sale, you might get it for $1.99, but it's like still $3 for baseline. I mean, when I could buy Breyer's for about $2.99 in 2019, 2018, look at a pack of Oreo cookies is now $5.99. And that's a sale price. Pepperidge Farm cookies were always a higher priced cookie, and that cookie is now $5-6 a bag, and those are small bags. Pepperidge Farms, and everything has.
Do you notice how most of Dwight's references are snack related?
Yeah. I mean, look at the price of a car. I mean, back in 2018, you could buy a car for under $20,000 that, that average family of four can ride around in comfortably. Now, that has gone up to about $32,000. Is that? I mean, a Ford Explorer, a base model Ford Explorer, is roughly about $36,000 is what the price is. $36,000. That is the baseline Explorer. We're not even talking the top of the line trim, with all the bells and whistles. And if you do want a Ford Explorer with all the bells and whistles, you're looking at, and this includes the security stuff, and that is their Ford Platinum series or their King Ranch. Don, you want to take a guess what the price of either one of those two? Actually, they're both pretty close to the same price. Any guess?
What are they going for? 45,000 or something?
54,000 for the 6 for the King Ranch, 54,007 for the Platinum.
Yeah, my father would just be shocked at the way prices have gone. I mean, I think when we bought our last, we only generally buy cars from an auto broker, so we get it, we get a secondhand car, and it's been several years since we did this. It was like 2017 or thereabouts, maybe, when the last time we bought a car, or we're paying about 27,000 for a used car back then with relatively low mileage. But that after the pandemic and after all this inflation and everything, supply chain, even that kind of a car now is easily $35,000 to $40,000 in the used market, and you're like, how many people can afford that? I mean, how many people can, as their kids turn 16 and are getting ready to drive, at least back in my day, you could go out and you could buy a car for $3,000 or $4,000 and give it to your kid. What kind of a car? Can you find a car for $3,000 or $4,000 of any kind?
No, I mean, you could buy a car for. I remember when I was in high school and I was on drive, you could buy a car for about $1,000. It won't be pretty to look at, but it'd be fairly reliable. By the way, a used Ford Explorer, you have to go to a 2014 to get one under $20,000, and that's also $15,900. It's got 109,000 miles on the car. That is insane, frankly. A Ford XLT, which is like the bottom trim, with about 39,000, is $27,000. That's still a little high for a Ford Explorer, paying that much money for a car. I mean, CarMax has two cars under $20,000, and that's Ford Explorers. There's two of them that are under 20 there. And a Ford Explorer is done.
That's what the other crazy thing is that, I mean, I remember it's been several years ago.
Cash for Clunkers is what did this, I think.
Yeah, was that, I can't remember how many miles our Honda Odyssey had on it, but we had taken it in for some kind of recall or service to the dealer, and the dealer calls my wife and says, we want to buy your car, and we're like, no, we need the car. But we were, I think, it was a little bit of a shock to say that the dealer was saying, they needed cars. They were, even though the car had been driven a decent amount, they were willing to do it. So back from the old days when you were lucky to drive a car for 125,000 miles, and you usually had to get rid of it. Now dealers are, they'll buy your car even if it's got 100,000 miles on it, because they can still find a market for it, because it provides a slightly cheaper option than a lot of the other used cars out there. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when I traded my Yukon, I got $40,000 for my Yukon. Which is not bad, I think, for a 5-year-old car. 40,000 on the trade-in. I had to fight him for that, but I mean, and by the way, at CarMax, a used Honda Odyssey EXL is $30,000. That's a 2022 with 57,000 miles on it. Although you can get a 2014, I just saw a 2014 on their site, which was roughly about $17,900, and that has 91,000 miles on it. There you go. That's a better alternative to that Ford Explorer. Yeah, we do everything here. We talk about cars. We talk about,
we do.
And by the way, we are about 20 some days away from the Shamrock thing coming back.
To bring back McRib again. And the other thing I would add that I liked is the chicken Big Mac. Did you try that?
I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
Yeah, he's a vegetarian.
I don't know how you could talk about McDonald's and be a vegetarian. What would you eat? There's nothing to eat at McDonald's, is there?
French fries. They have really good. When I used to eat their cookies are really good.
Yeah, and the apple
Especially when they
pies.
come right out of the microwave or whatever they cook them in.
Mm.
They're
I had
good.
no idea. I had no idea you were a vegetarian, Dwight.
Entire life.
Really?
Yeah, there's only been like a couple incidents where I accidentally had meat. Once
Really?
was when I was at the 96th convention in San Diego with our friend Matt. And we ordered cheese raviolis, but they turned out to be chicken. And Matt's the one that points out, he goes, I don't think these are cheese. I go, what is it then? And he goes, that's chicken or some chicken type product.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so if you've eaten with Dwight, you'll pizza, cheese quesadillas, lots of
raviolis.
Yeah. I've seen Dwight. He's been very good to sticking to that.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, McDonald's used to in the 80s they used to have pizza, but nobody wanted to wait 12 to 15 minutes to get their pizza at McDonald's.
Okay,
but the pizza at Heathrow Airport, pizzas at the McDonald's in Heathrow Airport, that you can still get it there at the Heathrow Airport.
So Dwight, are you telling me you've never had a McRib?
Never.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Never.
Wow.
There are some things in life that Dwight has been missing out on. Yes.
Yeah, the McRib is awesome.
I haven't had M&Ms in over a year, and that's actually I haven't had any Snickers since August. November.
All right.
Was the last time I had a Snicker. So I've been Snickers free for officially 17 days, but probably more than that. Yeah. The real trick would be getting rid of bagels or something like that. It'd be a lot harder to get rid of that.
All right.
Getting rid of butter. Anyways, but hey, we're at final thoughts before we go into extra innings. So, anyways, busy week coming up. Final thoughts with you, David. Go.
Well, looking forward to Trump taking office, Biden being gone. Biden is the worst president of my lifetime, bar none.
And we had Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama in our lifetime.
Yeah, and worse, in part because he's the one guy I think is trying to destroy the country. I don't get that. I didn't get that sense with Carter. But I think Biden on the way out the door in terms of spending, violating the Constitution with student loan forgiveness, everything he can do, stopping oil area exploration, giving federal workers 5 years to stay at home. All these things that he's trying to do is just an attempt to destroy the country. So I'll be glad when he's gone. Otherwise,
this stuff can be undone. It's going to all be undone next
I
Monday.
think it can. I think it can. Yeah, I think it can. So anyway, looking forward to that. I thought the hearings were great. Our candidates were great. I thought Pam Bondi was excellent when she kept hitting back at Schiff, which was great. And the best I thought was Scott Bessant, who's going to be, I guess, Treasury Secretary. And one of the lefties asked him, Ron Wyden says, we're in a green energy race. And he said, no, we're in an energy race. We're not in a green energy race. And so I thought that was beautiful.
By the way, that senator from Hawaii, you don't really think. I mean, if you ask me who the senator from Hawaii is, I'd say Dan Inouye or Senator Hokkaido, the founder of U.S. English. Those would come to mind. And I think they've had probably 3 or 4 senators since those two that I like. Inouye and Hokkaido.
Yeah.
Wasn't Tulsi Gabbard wasn't she a senator from Hawaii?
No, she was a member of the House. She was a House.
Was her dad a senator from Hawaii at all, or no? Her dad was involved in right-wing stuff.
Her dad was Mike Gabbard, and he was very big on fighting on the homosexual agenda and things. So yeah, he was big on doing that, and so yeah. So that's why she's not like this 100% left-wing liberal wingnut kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but anyway, otherwise doing well, and that's about it.
Okay, cool. Final thoughts, Don or Vine?
Go. I think with the inauguration. Well, yeah. I mean, this is interesting that they switched it inside because I guess they're going to do something at the Capital One Arena too. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what does that do to everybody who was going to attend otherwise, but nevertheless, I think one of the interesting things is just that the difference between this inauguration and Trump's first inauguration, and vis-a-vis how corporations and others looked at Trump, in 2020 after J6, is that Trump is, the inaugural committee is raking in record amount of corporate cash for the inauguration. Corporations, companies that were not, that had sworn off of Trump just a few years ago, are now basically, kind of kissing the ring and throwing, $1 million here, $1 million there. You've got Mark Zuckerberg doing an amazing about face, I think, with Facebook. Fact checking is basically what the changes they're making in fact checking is basically acquiescing and saying, okay, look, we understand the criticism that maybe our people have been censoring conservative thought. We're moving the entire fact checking team to Texas, and we're now going to follow Elon Musk's model of community notes. I mean, just kind of amazing things that are going on there. For where this is why I think this also I think plays into that whole Biden speech about the oligarchs. Because you have these wealthy people, Jeff Bezos. I mean, Tim Cook's going to be at the inauguration. All these people are going to be there that normally probably would not have been there, otherwise. But Trump has embraced their businesses, right? I mean, you got the CEO of TikTok is supposed to be there, right? Trump has totally done a 180 on TikTok. We've got TikTok about to be banned, from being carried here in the United States, as of Sunday. But
they'll be back Tuesday because Trump's going to undo it.
He wants to find a way to I think Trump will find his way to extend that. But the Supreme Court said they upheld what Biden administration want to do. But in essence, it's going to be up to the Trump administration to decide how to handle that in the end. We're just seeing an amazing thing. That the crypto people all behind it. There is just a sea change from 2016 to 2020 to 2024. It has been amazing. And Trump, I think he does have a mandate to lead here. We've got the Department of Government Efficiency with Elon Musk. We've got Vivek Ramaswamy, going to be part of it. Now he wants to run for governor in Ohio, right? That's the next thing. So I think that there's a lot of momentum and feeling from from people about. I don't know if people have felt this good since maybe the Reagan days in a lot of ways, even though Trump is no Reagan. So these are got to be 4 years that are got to be a whole lot better than the last 4 years, right?
Amen. Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of like that old Democrat song of the 1940s, "Happy days are here again."
Yeah. Well, I am disappointed that the inauguration has changed. I understand the weather conditions because we also might get snow on Sunday. It's kind of unpredictable. Yeah. But I thought this was going to be the inauguration of all inaugurations.
Yeah.
But I'm sure people will find a way to party and to make this extremely memorable.
I can't believe I left Florida came back from Florida for this.
Anyway, back to you, Dwight.
Yeah, I want to talk about a couple things. One, let me talk about a car that in my youth I thought was one of the ugliest cars on the road. And I'm not sure if it's basically the fact that is it an ugly car, or is modern car design gotten so much uglier that this actually looks appealing? It's not such a bad looking car. This is a Cadillac Seville. That's not a Cadillac Seville. This one is that's not either. Okay, this is the Cadillac Seville. One of the ugliest cars of my youth. I remember seeing this car and I go, what were they thinking? And now looking at it now in 2025, it doesn't look that bad. It looks kind of nice. I wouldn't mind owning one. This may be my next quest car to find out there. Basically a gently used Seville with a bustle back. And this is also tied into the other, and that was like an era for bustle back cars. Chrysler had and this is they had a what do you call it? a Frank Sinatra version of it. It was blue. And this is it right here. This is the, whoops. This is the Cadillac's version. And I think this back in the days, I thought looked better than the Seville. But I mean, it's a nice looking car. And it's like, okay, now here is the other car that I thought was a hideous looking car. This is the Mustang 2. I thought it was hideous, but now it doesn't look so bad. So has modern car design just gotten bad? But
I like the Frank Cannon Lincoln Continental. Remember that from the old show? That thing was big. That was like a boat of a car.
I'm sorry, you can't. That Mustang 2 thing was just an abomination because the Mustang is a classic car, and then they created that Mustang 2. Nice. It's like, you got to be kidding me, you know?
Yeah, I know, but but if you compare that, I tell you, that Mustang looks better, if you ask me, than the Mustangs of the 80s. That was a truly ugly Mustang. Yeah. But the Mustang 2, I mean, it doesn't look hideous as back when I was a kid when I saw it. One of my friend's moms bought a Mustang 2, and I thought, oh, really? And she used to have like a big Ford Gran Torino sedan. And she got rid of the sedan for the Mustang 2. And I thought, the other car was so much nicer looking, But no, comparing that to some of the cars today, like Tesla, I think the Mustang 2 looks better than a Tesla, frankly.
So those Teslas are good looking. I will say that. I think the Teslas
you can then do a comparative thing there, but Jimmy Carter in 1976 versus Jimmy Carter in 2024, right? Yeah. Jimmy Carter 2024 does not look as bad as Jimmy Carter in 2024.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like and Rush Limbaugh used to always talk about that. He goes, it's never as bad as you think it is. Like in hindsight, everything doesn't look as bad as it seemed when you were in the time, Yeah. But I think, but like I said, I think modern car designs, I don't know if you've seen some of the newer car designs. If you look at they're going back to the boxy designs. I kind of liked the, what do you call, like the new, like the 2025, the Toyota with it, whatever. I guess it's a Land Cruiser, I guess is what they're calling it. It also looks very boxy compared to the previous version, which had nice round corners. I mean, this is what it looks like. I mean, it's not the ugliest thing on wheels, if you ask me, but I think there could have been a little bit more emphasis put on the design here. This is the new 2025 Land Cruiser. A little too boxy, if you ask me. This is an ugly car, too. But at the end of the day, a lot of these cars, and where am I going with this? I think
I'd like to know that myself.
That's your final thought?
I didn't realize it was Dr. Politics and the Auto Show.
Yeah. And part of the Washington, D.C. Auto Show, it's
coming right up.
It starts next week. Everyone should go. They always have some great vendors, and it's a fun place. If you like cars, it's great to see what's coming new out of Detroit and stuff like that. I'm thinking of doing a couple of videos about how ugly some of these cars are, and just standing in front of them and saying how ugly this car is. But and the other thing is, Monday is Inauguration Day. Be safe. Unfortunately, the outdoor festivities have been canceled. I think the parade is still going on, right, Don?
I'm sure the parade's still going to go on. Yeah. They just didn't want all those people standing around for a long time waiting for that short inauguration ceremony, I think. Versus the parade, which is a little different.
Yeah, and the parade you can run inside of the.
You'd be stuck there for a few hours, kind of.
Yeah. Because it's like, and then there's still the Trump rally on Sunday over at the Capital One Arena. And that's all there is to it. And we'll have a new president next week. Finally. I know. It's like that. Our long nightmare is almost over. 3 more days.
Trump should include that. Trump should include that in his inaugural speech on national anthem.
That's going to be a real interesting speech, won't it be?
Yeah.
It will. And I hope, and I guess because he does tend to go on. Like I remember at CPAC, he gave a speech in 2019, and at CPAC he went for almost 2.5 hours.
Well, remember his acceptance speech? How long that went on? That was way after midnight. Remember?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden got to give his farewell address after midnight.
Yeah, because they didn't want him. They didn't want to see. They didn't want the primetime audience to see him.
But everyone, thanks for watching. As always, we're on Rumble. So when I remember to set the stream up, but you can also catch us on Rumble. We're actually getting more views on Rumble than we do on YouTube, by the way. Just letting you guys know.
Good.
But until next week, we will be back, and we are heading out, and we'll see everyone. Stay safe at the inaugural. Send us pictures if you want us to share them next week. We'll share some inaugural ball pictures and stuff like that. So talk to everyone later. Good night, everyone. See everyone next week. Bye.